when we do this, we are content here and now with the island. And dependent origination, without craving, without wanting, without the unwholesome, but just with the contentment, is the four foundations of mindfulness. The four foundations of mindfulness is just what happens when this whole chain doesn't actually arise and we stay with the wholesome. We stay with something that is purely present and wholesome. Now, ready to take the deep dive. Nina is looking at me, it's like, oh. Again. But I think tonight will be a little bit of a shorter version than sometimes what it can be. In fact, the recipe is a bit different tonight from those of you who've heard me give this talk last time. We will be using a different sutta, which is also found in your puja book. And this is on page 166. The Buddha's Awakening. And so what is dependent origination? So tonight we'll be going back to the awakening of the Buddha. We saw a brief, one little angle on it on the second day. If you all remember, we spoke about what he understood as the wholesome states and the unwholesome states, their qualities and right effort, how to work with them towards liberation, freedom of mind, meditation. And tonight we're kind of fast forwarding to after his awakening. And dependent origination can be a very highly philosophical topic. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of PhD theses that have been written about it. Because it is a very fascinating topic, and we can go quite deep into understanding what the Buddha is talking about here. There's many ways of understanding how dependent origination works, and in brief, it is simply how the mind works. How do we store all of our inclinations, all of our preferences, opinions, and how do we build an identity around that, and how this whole process arises. And so that we are here in these bodies, doing what we do, and going the places we go, working the works that we work. And so this is quite interesting for those who enjoy psychology and these kinds of topics. This is usually a teaching of interest. And I also, my goal here, as you can tell, I got some images and little dots and notes and all of these things, because everything I've come upon before was always like this very dry, linear kind of names and explanations and numbers and dots, and I was trying to kind of convey this in a more organic way and more human-friendly, I guess, so that it can be more digestible and understandable. And I guess I would like to say that my main goal here is to take this topic and to try to direct it in a helpful way for us to use in our meditation. And so understanding really how the mind works, so that we can always have this, I like to see dependent origination as like the blueprint of the mind, or like the key, the password to liberation. And how is it actually useful for us here? Okay, so let's dive in. And this is where the Buddha is recently awakened, and this will be a bit of an interactive talk also. I mean, we've got lots of material here. I hope you got pens, and but we will be doing a bit of a call and response. This is the usual way that we like to do it. I will let you know when this happens. I will read the introduction and then give you a little bit of a cue. At that time, the Buddha, the awakened one, was living in Uruvela, on the bank of the river Naranjara. This is in Bodh Gaya, by the way, in India. At the root of the tree of awakening, recently completely awakened. On that occasion, the awakened one sat in one posture for 7 days, experiencing the bliss of freedom. See, I didn't lie. It's true. Then, when the week had passed, he emerged from this samadhi or meditation. And in the first part of the night, he paid careful attention to the arising chain of causality, dependent origination. Okay, so here's the Buddha, recently all awakened, and he thinks, when there is this, that comes to be. When this arises, there is the arising of that. That is, and this is the cue, this is where we will start to have a little bit of an interaction. I will say the first bit, from lack of awareness arise, and then you say, what arises? Okay, good. We'll do it one more time so that we're just all on cue. From lack of awareness arise. Great. From mental activities arises. From consciousness arise. From mind and body arise. From the 6 senses arises. From contact arises. From experience arises. From discontent arise. From attachments arises. From identity arises. From birth arises. Sadness, grieving, trouble, depression, and anxiety. So this is what Bhante would always say when we talk about dependent origination, and that last bit comes, and he would say, and sorrow, pain, grief, and despair. And just so you know, this is a fairly profound teaching, and we'll be speaking more about this. But in the end, this is basically saying this is how we create our own problems in life, our own troubles. And so he says, this is how this whole mass of trouble comes to be. Then, having understood this, the awakened one at that moment spoke this uplifted revelation. When the nature of things becomes evident to the intently meditating Brahmin, at that time all doubts vanish, as one understands the causes which create reality. Now, this is a pretty strong start. We can put this down now, and we will. Now, this is, of course, this is quite heavy. This is a lot of material, and we will now go to the pictures and the colors to understand what was just said here. And so, when we say, so just so I'm aware, who's heard about this before? Just so I can know. Yeah, that's a good one. You can do that. Yeah, you talked about it last time. Yes, good. Well, everybody from last retreat, I guess. Yeah, at least. Okay, good. So we got some knowledgeable people. From lack of awareness arise mental activity. So this, to start with, we start from the ground. And this is a picture of in front of my house in where I'm from in countryside, Quebec, Canada. So I like this imagery of the field, which is like the ground for all of this whole chain to arise. We start from the ground, and this is the field that supports all of this. And the field also, I like this imagery with the wheat that has all the little seeds in it, all the potential. I write lack of awareness or lack. I have to find a good way to hold all this material. I like also lack of discernment. And does anybody here know what we're talking about here? Lack of discernment. What is the classical term for this here? Avijja, this Pali term. Ignorance, yeah. So in my translation is a little bit different. I got a lot of feedback from that word when I was using it on retreats and teaching, and ignorance, and people don't like that word. We don't like to be ignorant, right? Nobody likes that. So, lack of discernment is better, because nobody is ignorant anymore. But there is little bit lacking discernment sometimes. And just to put you into context here, lacking discernment, we're talking about just not knowing how things work properly. So this is a big topic here, obviously. This could be a whole retreat again. But this is also where wisdom or discernment or paññā is seen. This is basically the opposite of the Buddha's wisdom. So the more we gain in the wisdom of the Buddha, which, does anybody have any idea what would be the big number one template for the wisdom of the Buddha? The Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths. We have a confirmation? Okay. Yes, the Four Noble Truths, the truths of the awakened ones. And what are those? That's another good thing to know. I mentioned that earlier in the retreat, but I don't want to stuff people's mind too early, so so I was waiting for this talk actually to speak a little bit more about it. So the first noble truth would be suffering. Dukkha. And dukkha is the opposite of sukha. Sukha means pleasant, dukkha means unpleasant. So it's not just that, okay, so did the Buddha say this plastic clock is dukkha? The floor is dukkha? What is he talking about? I don't know. Light is dukkha. What is he talking about? Is he talking about like iPhones or dukkha? Huh?
Suffering meaning craving.
Craving, yes. Suffering and unsatisfactory. Yes, that's much closer. And that would be closer to what? Material things or mental. He's speaking about mental states here. So craving, of course, we're going to get there. But we are talking about here about mental states. And so mainly, of course, this is a bigger topic, but to know what is dukkha is the first noble truth. So basically recognizing what that is. Second, the cause of it, and there we have the so-called craving, Taṇhā, or you said, Niranjan, dissatisfaction? This unsatisfactory, unsatisfactoriness, that's a long word, but it exists. So the cause of all of our problems, basically, because I like to translate dukkha as problems or troubles also, is this unsatisfactoriness, this being discontent. But we will get there soon. And then what is the third? Cessation. There's a way out. But the way out is the fourth. So that there is the cessation or the release from suffering. That is the third one. So that thing exists. So there is a way that we can not experience that dukkha. And then the fourth is the way out of this. So sometimes there's like I heard some monks say there's the suffering and its cause, and then there's happiness and its cause, which I also liked. So that was a kind of a very nice twist to it. And so to know this, of course, this is like, again, a very essential blueprint, part of the blueprint of the Buddha's wisdom. And to understand what is dukkha, what is causing it, and the way out, what is its release and the way out of it. Because of not knowing this whole field exists. So this is what gives rise to the whole field. And the whole field has within it, because from lack of awareness arise mental activities, Saṅkhāra. And so Saṅkhāra has this double kind of, role, which is, it's like the seed bank where all of the dormant, latent tendencies and accumulated preferences, opinions and inclinations, they lay dormant there. This is where it's all built. And an idea to understand that is also, it's like the coding behind like an operating system when you have a computer, for example. So I like the analogy of a computer and kind of like technology, which is like more modern. And I also like the analogy of the gardening and the growing plants, which is also very similar, which I also like quite a bit. And so the mental activities, of course, when we say it like that, mental activities, it sounds like a pretty active process. So it's also the underlying activities in the mind, where not only there's these latent potential that is kind of dormant, but at the same time it's always It's an organic living kind of system, I guess. We could say it like this. So that's why I also put the little seedlings in the trays that are kind of sprouting out of the seeds here. This is where it all starts.
Bhante,
Yes.
is that where karma would be? Somewhere in there?
Yeah, basically, kamma is like here and at jati, at the number 11, but we'll get there. Yes. So Saṅkhāra and kamma are very close together. Actually, they mean almost the same thing. Saṅkhāra is an active word. So it's like sometimes it's translated as formations, and that's also, if you like to write the classical terms on the sheet, because I'm giving you my translations, but the classical term for Saṅkhāra is formations, or mental formations. And Saṅkhāra also, sa Saṅkhāra, for example, is sometimes translated with force, or sa is like with, and Saṅkhāra is also like a force, like a momentum, volition. So kamma, like actions, is also very close to that. Here it's like its quality as potential momentum that is already in action, and then the other part, which is where we actually bring it up, we make it happen, for it to get stored in the storehouse, is in number 11, and we'll get there. So really all of this is creating karma. This whole chain is creating karma, which gets stored into this field of activities and potential. And now, from mental activities arises consciousness. Now, mental activities are like the coding that is behind the operating system, and consciousness is like the operating system. We're not really aware, and that's why I like this analogy so much, is that we're not really aware of the coding that's going off, like firing off in the backstage in the computer. We're just aware of the software and the operating system and what it looks like on the front end. But behind all of it, there is a lot of activity. There's a lot of coding firing off. And I also, consciousness can be likened to a cloud of starlings. It's called a murmuration of starlings. You know how there's like all the animals have their different name for their groups, and like owls is like a parliament of owls, and starlings is a murmuration of starlings. And so because consciousness is like this big cloud that we think it's this thing, we think it's consciousness itself, but when we and it's moving, and it's doing, it's adjusting, and it's dancing around with whatever it's doing, but when we get a closer look at how this cloud operates, we can see that it's actually just thousands and thousands and thousands of little birds flapping their wings all around. And this is all of the like past baggage that we've accumulated, the inclinations. It's all at work backstage, and it's actually consciousness rests upon that. So it's hard for me to start a talk on this topic because it's very profound. And it's like starting with the end, basically, obviously. And we spoke a little bit about a couple of days ago about the sequence of meditation, and how there's the release of perceptual awareness, nirodha, and all these levels of meditation. And I alluded to that a little bit, but we'll be looping back around to that topic towards the end. So we can continue on and understand that as the Buddha says, he realized that these mental activities brought up consciousness, and then from consciousness arise mind and body. And in another teaching, he says that, I know this is a bit, out of reach because you have to believe in rebirth and all these things, and I don't want to. You don't need to believe in rebirth if you don't want to. It's not. It's a personal thing, but unless you actually directly see that in your own meditation, but that might take a few years. So the Buddha, why he's saying that is just that in another teaching. He says that if consciousness was to not enter the womb from the very beginning, then this whole process of mind and body would not start. And this is a whole process in itself, and it's a bit outside of the scope of what I want to be touching upon tonight. But basically, consciousness exists before this mind and body. And the Buddha says it's because of that consciousness that migrates from one body to another that this new mind and body comes to be with all of its inclinations. And that's why you have like my little nephews, for example, my sister's kids, they were born two different beings completely. And, there's, of course, they picked up some conditionings afterwards, but they were very much born with their personalities. And I think everybody can see that quite clearly. And that's why there's a few references to kids and children in the chart, because I really find that the best place to see dependent origination is with kids. Because they're so raw, they're so natural, and that you can see the whole process happening, and it's quite fascinating. In fact, I saw dependent origination arising, in myself and in children before I knew about dependent origination, and I saw this process happening, and I thought it was really interesting how they would how we mimic, we just basically mimic what we want to be and what we want to do, because there's that wanting. But I won't sell the candle. This is for a little bit later. Yes.
Quick question. From 2 to 3, from mental activity to consciousness. Mental activity gives rise to consciousness. Could you expand a little bit more?
Yeah, we could get stuck here for 3-4 hours for sure. But Niranjan, I'm planning to loop back to that, because that's a really great ending to the talk. That's my problem. I've been giving this talk many times, and it's really hard to find the right sequence to give it, because there's so much to think about, and that aspect for me is the most fascinating. Personally, I think it's the deepest, understanding on how the mind works, and the Buddha is just that's how it works. And just find it fascinating. But the goal of my talk tonight is to actually arch back to end with that. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe we'll keep the candy for the end. Okay, so from consciousness arise mind and body. So I just explained this. In other suttas, the Buddha says that consciousness and Nāma Rūpa, mind and body, or mentality, materiality, that's sometimes how it's called. They're like two stacks of grass leaning on each other. And if you take one away, the other one falls So consciousness needs a body, and body needs consciousness. And this is a bit of a good start. Then it gets a little bit more, easier to understand. From mind and body arise the six senses. And so I think everybody here can quite easily conclude, so what do we need to have the six senses? Well, we need mind and body operating, because there needs to be the physical sense, and there needs to be the mental connection also. Otherwise, it just wouldn't, the thing wouldn't work. From the six senses arises contact, and now that we have these six senses, so the moment there is mind and body, a few things happen, and we're kind of like, this is it. You know, we're stuck with it, at least for as long as the body lasts. So these are kind of, it's not like we have much of a choice here. So this is just happening. And so the six senses, once we have the six senses, there will be contact. So that's just unavoidable. There will be contact of the six senses every nanosecond. From contact arises experience or sensations. And from this contact, which is just arising from just having a body, having the senses, there's contact, and then there is an experience. That's just the nature of things. And here, as you can understand, there's not much of a choice. We're just born like this, and whatever inclinations of the mind that we had. And by the way, just for you to come to a retreat and have the right causes and conditions for you to take the time off that you need to come and meditate, develop your mind, learn the wisdom of the Buddha. You all have, you had very good conditions and very good karma. So, because, there's a lot of other places you could have been born into and never encounter any of this, and choose this also for yourself. So we're stuck with it, but in the same time, we apparently landed in a very fortunate situation here. So, so that's great. And now this is kind of like, okay, if you want to put it in perspective of different lives and rebirth, then consciousness kind of migrates into where it's inclining towards because of its past conditionings, and it just goes to where it's just drawn to, basically. And then it takes up a body, and here we are. And now that we have this body, there's going to be tons of sensory stimulation, contact happening all the time. And there's going to be experiences, sensations that are whether, any ideas? Pleasant? Unpleasant? Blah. Or nyeh. Depends. Yeah, neutral. Yeah. Or if you want to be Pali proper, neither pleasant nor non-pleasant. And so at that level, there will be always these sensations. There will be pleasant sensations, there will be unpleasant sensations. Mainly, let's just talk about these two, because that's more relevant a bit. And so sometimes you'll hurt yourself, sometimes you'll be eating chocolate mousse cake. Life is full of these things. It's full of goodness, and it's also got its load of challenges. But the way that we move beyond this, now here is the choice. And of course now we see how we basically create a little bit more like an identity, and a little bit more we see how we lean towards slightly unwholesome states or lean towards negligence sometimes because of this whole process. But just so you know, here we always have a choice on how we interpret and react or respond to these experiences, sensory experiences. But here we're talking about dependent origination, and we're talking about how a little bit careless we can be sometimes. And so how we get caught, I guess I could say it like that. That would sound better. And this is because dependent origination is a very serious thing. There's a picture of me and my big sister. And so I don't know how old I am on this thing. Anyways, I want to be my big sister, because obviously she's like my world at this point. She's like the person I look up to in my life, apart from my parents. And she's holding this caterpillar, and I'm jealous, and I'm doing this pouty face. So that's craving right there. And I like to translate Taṇhā, which is usually translated as craving. I like to call it wanting or discontent. And Niranjan was also very right in this sense of unsatisfactoriness or dissatisfaction. So I find craving a little bit of an intense term for this, because I feel like at this point, and I think Metananda was having a good analogy the other day, it's more like a magnetic pole. It's really just that subtle. In fact, to me, it's really craving or Taṇhā is this pull that you want to be something else that's not right now, that's out there, that's not here and now in your present experience. And that's just not being fully content. And see, it's not like, it's not, evil or like the devil or, it's nothing like that. But it's just, this thing that pulls us out of contentment, of being just like, everything's good, here, now. We just leave that space of contentment just because we're tempted to believe that we'll be happier with something else. Like holding a caterpillar. Which I mean is pretty cool, but...
Bhante,
Yes.
image for number 7.
Number 7, yes, these are like neural connections. Yeah, or like nervous system connections, or just and I forgot to explain the matrix at the back. I'm sorry. Seems pretty important. Just because I like to say that this is just raw data. That it's just raw data coming into your senses. At this point, it doesn't have a label yet. Because, when a person becomes awakened, they just see things for what they are. So there's no label on things, there's no preferences, there's no opinions, there's no storylines. It's just like, this is there, that's what it is. All these senses, they actually don't come with anything in it. It's just that we attach things to them. So, and it starts with caterpillars. And then, from experience arises discontent. From discontent arise attachments. And the thing is that we're very, unless we're really skillful with our minds and we really know how it works and we're really kind of developed and clear and aware, we'll be tempted over and over again to go out there for happiness. That's just basically what the template is. Whether it's this or that, whether it's food, whether it's like watching Netflix, whether it's... And none of this is bad, by the way. It's just that to really seek happiness in that over and over again, then it starts to create attachments. And attachments is like, because I used to be a market gardener, I put a picture of my propagation area here. That's where you plant all the trays, where you start your seeds. Basically repeating these, indulging into these pull and going outside and outside more and more. It's like planting the little seeds, saying like, I want more of this. Because when you plant a garden, you think in your mind, what do I want? What do I want to grow? What do I want to eat? And then you just like multiply. Plant thousands of them, and then you just, that's called a propagation area. So you plant trays. You start your seedlings there. And at the back we have also the analogy of, this is where we actually start writing the code. So we're starting to write the code for our new softwares, which bloom into, from attachments arise identity or habitual tendencies. As we repeat this over and over and over again, now we have so many things that we accumulate and that we like to go towards, and that can be anything, that can be, you know, anything that defines us. Like, for example, I look at my past life, sorry, in terms of like, when I say this, I mean before I became a monk. God. For me, it was like, for example, like surfing, or like I'm a surfer, you know, because I really like that sport. I did many sports. I was a climber, I was a outdoors guide, and I really identified with these things because I was pulled to these things, and I repeated them over and over again, and I built this sense of me around that. Because, yeah, this is me. I like ice climbing. I like going out there and surfing waves, and it's, you know, I'm not saying that it's like a bad thing, but I'm putting that into context. Or, you know, like I like lasagna more than spaghetti, or, you know, I like salt and vinegar chips instead of ketchup. I don't like ketchup chips, or, you know, whatever it is that we build up our personalities around. I really try to like make it concrete so that we know what we're talking about here, because this can be very philosophical. And also, in a way, we build our identity, and also we build these habitual tendencies. And bhava in Pali, sometimes it's translated as becoming or existence. If you follow the very philosophical, classical Theravadan understanding. Number 9, upadana, would be clinging, if you want to write this.
Excuse Bhante.
Yes.
Where it's not actually clinging to something, but wanting to push it away. Like there's
Yeah. So dislike or aversion or pushing something away is still clinging. Or wanting, because it's wanting that thing not to be. So pushing is also wanting, but we want it out, we want it away.
I can understand that with the number 8.
Yes.
I have trouble understanding that with number 9.
Yeah. Well, this is where we would be speaking about locking things we don't like away. Yeah. So clinging in that sense, like clinging things away out of my view so that I don't have to see it, and put it in the basement. I call it the basement. And where all the little monsters are. And closing the door. But in reality, we're clinging actually to this. Because the moment it comes up, we actually keep it there. And we don't realize how much energy that takes away from us until we actually start to forgive. For example, the forgiveness practice is where that's the level at which it's working. Once we let go of these things, and the more we let go of the distractions, for example, the more we deepen into the experience of a liberated mind in the levels of meditation, we can also see how much we're holding on to all of these things that we like or we don't like. Some people were mentioning like this kind of like that tightness behind the eyes that was like felt at a certain point in the meditation when it goes deeper, and that's actually quite common because we don't actually realize in our waking life just how much we think, especially in our society, in our culture, how much we think is crazy. You know, at the time of the Buddha, you know, like if you would like download a mind of, you know, to 2024 and put it in the body of like someone at the time of the Buddha, they would probably be like, whoa, this is like sensory overload, like crazy, like why are these guys thinking so much? And the thing is that sometimes when people go deeper in their meditation, they can actually start feeling that latent like background, like, oh, there's like, it's really tensed in there actually, because the mind starts to collect on its own and be more aware of itself, and that kind of arises. It's like, oh wow, okay, there's actually a lot of tension in there. It's not every time, but it happens quite often. So, yeah, very good question. Clinging, yes.
Bhante, would perception fit somewhere around 7, or where would it fit?
Yes. Usually, perception is understood to be somewhere around there. Usually I would say kind of after, because you experience and then you perceive. They're really close together. The Buddha doesn't speak of it here, but he does speak of it, sanya, in the 5 aggregates. And just so that everybody knows what the 5 aggregates are, so the Buddha said that there are these 5 things, these 5 components. In my own translations, I translate it as the 5 fabrics of the ego, of the self. 5 components that make up this idea of a self, and they are Rūpa, the body or form. And by the way, it's just like it's a simplified dependent origination. It's very close. And then you have sensations, Vedanā, which is here. Then you have Saññā, perceptions. Then you have Saṅkhāra, formations, or I call them activities, mental activities. And consciousness, Viññāṇa. So you can see already that there's a few already in dependent origination. Although Saññā is not there, but it's there anyways. Good. Yes?
I've got a question. The identity is then made up of all these little miniature wants, needs.
Yeah.
Like loads and loads of them, like probably a zillion of them that you've built up over your life.
Yeah.
As well as this idea that you're a surfer or you're a climber.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the clinging in that? That you're a surfer? Clinging to this, is that a clinging?
Yeah. That I mean, this is just an example, obviously, but I'm clinging to, basically there is that want to, at the beginning there is that want to go out there and, try that out, like excitement. At the base there is that. There is like, oh, I want to like, basically everything we do is to try to find happiness. So I want to go and check out what it feels like to surf. And then I do it over and over again. And then I feel like I really like it. And so the more I like it, the more I cling to it. The more I cling to it, the more I do it. And the more I do it, the more I identify with it. So at some point when do you become a surfer? I don't know. But it happens at some point. You say, oh yeah, I'm a surfer.
You have the first two.
Yes. Yeah, where does it start? We'd have...
Is the ego?
Sorry?
It is the ego, it is the self?
Yeah, the self, the ego. I mean, these are like contemporary words that didn't really exist at the time of the Buddha, the ego. But yeah, we build this sense of personality, the sense of a self. This is who I am. I could say, like I'm a writer. I could even say that I'm a monk. And cling to that idea. But that would be a little bit backwards, because being a monk is about letting go of all that stuff. So, but it still can happen. Yep.
I have a comment about everything we do is to find happiness. Would you say is to find satisfaction? Because certain people, they might do things that the initial glance looks like it's to cause themselves pain, but it's to find a relief or some sort of satisfaction. Or some people go challenge themselves and go through the extremes. That doesn't look, can look not conventionally happy, but maybe they seek it out because it gives them some sort of mental satisfaction, or they think, they perceive it will give them satisfaction. So would you say that satisfactory rather than like happiness?
Yeah, well, the thing is that the more we build this chain, the more we give it power in wanting things outside and seeking things outside, the more distorted our perceptions become. And so this is why we start doing extreme things and going to extremes, and then it becomes, at that point it's so distorted that it's like, in reality, like we're all doing fine here, I'm happy, just sitting here. I don't need to actually do anything else. But the thing is that we think that, because we look for excitement, we think that's like happiness. We kind of look for more, and that's just an endless kind of bottomless pit, really. And at some point, yeah, we could say that it's like looking for satisfaction, because at that point it's almost like an addiction. It's so ingrained that, if you don't get it, if you don't get that barrel, for example, if you're surfing, then you're gonna like get angry or something, or like, but we do these extreme things to like try to satisfy ourselves at that level, but that's already kind of far into the chain, I would say. Mm-hmm. That's right. No. Mm-hmm. But it's still at the root. It's still looking for happiness and not understanding that happiness is actually a mental state, not something that you can buy or get or do. So yeah, this whole chain can also be used. You can replace wanting or craving or whatever you want to call it. You can replace Taṇhā by chanda, and you can replace wanting or unwholesome craving by actually wholesome desire. Chanda is literally basically just a wholesome aspiration, wholesome desire. And you can it works quite similarly, although it's basically using the chain, using the blueprint to to basically condition ourselves in the wholesome way, so that the chain will get weaker and lose its unwholesome. So you can still take actions that are purified by wholesome intentions. So you're not like a desperate, of course, like I was saying yesterday, even the monks have right to the 4 basic requisites that, like, if we speak of survival, we have access. The Buddha said that we need, for a comfortable, happy practice, we need food, shelter, clothing, medicine. That's just like the basic of the survival needs that we need to, like, if you want to develop your mind and be happy here and now without doing much else, then but you still need these things, because food, shelter, clothing, that's kind of like, it's very basic needs. Here you have to know that we're taking a dive into kind of like how we are creating a little bit this whole chain, and how we're speaking basically of the first and the second noble truth here. So we're not talking about the way out. We're just talking about how it arises, how we create problems for ourselves. So of course here I'm not pretending that we're gonna find the way out, because this is not the way out. We're trying to actually move away from dependent origination. Dependent origination is not liberation in itself. Dependent origination, as the Buddha will explain here, there is a way out. And the way out is also explained in another sutta, which is on the other side of the page. But we won't really have time to explain this. Just so you know, the way out is what you've been practicing for the last 5 days. So it's just that page, the other side of that page is just, that's what it is. But to understand how this process works is really helpful for us, and also in meditation. Like I said, I want to loop back to that. So see, that's what happens with dependent origination. It's a very interesting topic, and it goes, there's many branches that come out of it, so it's really, really interesting. I think I was at from identity arises birth. And this is another interesting one. So here, and this is, by the way, this is really inspired a lot by my teacher, Bhante Viññāṇa. What I'm saying, I've changed things around, but I really lean a lot on his explanation, because he made it very tangible. He made it very practical so that we could understand it. And here is one of his great addition. Well, first, number 10, Bhava, he's the one who called it habitual tendencies, because these are like, we just build our habit patterns there. And it's, the more we do this, we have to understand, the less mindful it becomes, the more subconscious it becomes. And so at this point, he would say birth, because now we have a branch, we branch off. It's either we take the practical path, meditation path, here and now path, or we take the philosophical next rebirth kind of path. So just so you know, birth in the usual classical way, it's just basically how this bhava, this becoming force, this kind of identity, that momentum goes in, that's what goes into a next birth, because that's the conditioning has been done here, and then it just keeps going into that next birth, like all these mental activities that create consciousness that go into that mind and body. This is the birth, Bhante would say, the birth of action. But it's also these reactions, and these blind reactions. I think that's what I wrote, yes. And so at this level, it's not really conscious anymore. this is when somebody says something to you, like shouts your name or something, shout names at you, and then you just retaliate or you punch them. It's too late. It's like it's done. It's like the karma, and this is the active karma. This is where we kind of make that imprint of karma, and it's like it's done. So whatever we've done is like, okay, we're gonna have to deal with this, either whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. And this is obviously this is sprouting from habitual tendencies, and this is not conscious at this point. It's like you're just doing things out of habit, and it kind of goes under the radar. Not that turning off a light switch is unwholesome, but the thing is that it could have been something else that went missing from the radar, and that's when it gets dangerous. So, and I like that flower that is just like blooming, and the flower is like the product of it all, but it's also what comes after the flower. The fruit and the seeds, yes, exactly. So we go back, all the way back to the beginning. But now you're probably wondering, well, I mean, dukkha, trouble, why my composting toilet? And basically, I just think it's really funny to, that's all the dukkha, all the trouble, all the problems, all the stuff that nobody wants. The Buddha said that it is because of this mass of trouble or encountering these problems sometimes that we actually wake up and we change. And if you turn the page, in another sutta which I sometimes use, he says that dukkha is the cause for faith, confidence, and practice, the whole practice to arise. And this is where we start to change and take action and come for retreats, meditation retreats, and develop our minds and develop in happiness of the mind. And so any good gardener knows that actually the more compost you have, the better your garden will be. So and that's just the fact. Yeah, well, there's a bit of accumulation needed before you let it go into the compost bin, which is a bigger project in itself. Yeah, it's amazing. This thing would revolutionize the world if we did it, but we don't. So, I mean, there's so much to say, and I had a bit of a plan for this talk, but we went into all these beautiful branches, and that's good. I want to honor that, and I just think that now you have an interesting idea. I really tried my best to actually not make it linear, so as you can tell, I succeeded. And I find that there are groups of things here that also go really well together, like the sensations, contact, and six senses. This is also what the Buddha called the island. And also this is where we find the four, what I call the resting places of awareness, but the four foundations of mindfulness. And is anybody familiar with the four foundations of mindfulness? Yeah. What are they? Seeing body as body, intent fully present and conscious, or something like that. Abandoning longing and grieving for the world, the senses. Feeling sensations as sensations. Nothing else, not me, not my sensation, not I don't like it, not I like it, just that's what it is. Sensations as sensations. Mind as mind, yes, mind as mind. See, do we see the correlations here? And then Dhamma principles or states as states. So here we have Vedanā, we have the senses and mind and body. It's all here. This is the island. And why is this the island? Is because Viññāṇa loke Avijja domana sang. Letting go of all agitation or grief or distracted or sorrow or clinging to anything of the six senses of the world. When we do this, we are content here now with the island. And dependent origination, without craving, without wanting, without the unwholesome, but just with the contentment, is the four foundations of mindfulness. So this is what the Buddha talked about when he said that. So the four foundations of mindfulness is just what happens when this whole chain doesn't actually arise and we stay with the wholesome. We stay with something that is purely present and wholesome. And of course, I said that we would arch back to the way that consciousness works and how mental activities create consciousness. As we deepen in this meditation and this bright clarity of the mind, some of you have been starting to experience what we call the clear mind, the still mind, which is actually one of the satipatthanas. It's one of the four foundations of mindfulness. I would say maybe a further practice of watching mind as mind. And so we're basically not labeling anything, we're not putting any opinions, or we're not doing anything at this point. Mind has gone through all the Brahma Viharas, which I was reminded today, what are the Brahma Viharas? The Brahma Viharas are four. There is the loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and then equanimity or boundless calm. And based on these things that we've developed, now don't worry if you haven't seen each of them, it doesn't matter, like I said earlier. But still we're supporting by this wholesome radiance, this wholesome mind. At some point the mind becomes very still, very clear, and it stops moving. And at that point, there is that deeper understanding that even that consciousness arises and passes away. It's not easy to see. Even awareness arises and passes away. And it is built up of a lot of tiny mental activities. And some people say, I got random images coming up, random ideas, random words, random images, patterns, or whatever, light. It's disconnected, doesn't make any sense. That's just because it's so deep in the subconscious that the mind will come up with something, and it's not big enough to be substantial enough to have a story to it. But it's a Saṅkhāra. It's like a dormant part of an idea that is left in there, and at that moment it might just arise, like because it's a bit coarser, for whatever reason your mind is just shooting that. Doesn't matter, just perception rising and passing away. The mind will become more aware that this whole awareness is actually conditioned. It's like a TV. A TV is not just like a pure image. It's got thousands of pixels in it. And so the mind is starting to, okay, this awareness is like billions of pixels or like activities, and then even relaxing that. And I like to compare it to the murmuration of the starlings again. Sometimes the cloud will be released so much, it's hard to tell whether there's a cloud anymore or not. And then it will kind of come back together and become a little bit denser. It's like, oh, yeah, it's there. And then it will go again. And then it will move again. And as you get used to that state, and these are the little birds, the starlings, those are the Saṅkhāras, those are the little tiny activities in the mind coming together, getting dissipated by you relaxing, seeing the tension, relaxing, seeing a little bit of tension, and oh, I am back. And then nothing, and then and on this, we have one last video, and that will be the candy for tonight.
Turn off the lights?
Yeah, turn off the lights, bring out the popcorn. This is it. This was the candy. I don't know. I find a lot of beauty and inspiration in looking at things in nature in terms of Dhamma. And when I saw the murmuration of the starlings, it really resonated with how I understood the nature of consciousness and how the Buddha is explaining it in the dependent origination. So I'd like to just share that with everyone and make one more mental impression that maybe, who knows, might be useful in your meditation. So
It was very meditative.
Maybe we can share our merits and then go meditate.